You're watching Sky Sports.
This week on Sport Nation, we make a splash in Devon with the OCR powerboats. And we head to Cambridge for the finals of the PGA East Region Order of Merit Series. The beautiful seaside town of Salcombe in Devon was the venue for the Wolf Rock Boat Company OCR National Championships. Over the weekend, teams would do battle within the confines of the harbour in 4 heats to help them on their way to claim the crown.
Good thing about our powerboat series is that it's very in the face of the public. It's very spectator orientated. We're very in the face of the crowd. It's very close, tight circuit racing. Our course is probably only just over a mile a lap, and we have between 6 and 8 turns within that course, so it's very close.
Especially today's race was going to be in the estuary, and crowd-wise it's going to be great for the spectators because it's just inside the estuary and the course is really tight as well. So it's going to be really close racing today.
The nature of the racing means the crews have to work together if they're to stand any chance of success.
Yeah, you've got a good little working relationship really to trust each other, because he's got to trust me that I know where I'm taking him. If I'm telling him to tighten up on somebody who's behind us, he's got to trust me that they're not going to hit into the back of us, basically. And if we're going into a corner and we've just about got an overlap and I tell him to turn in, he's got to trust me that it's actually safe to turn in and there's not going to be somebody who's going to drive over the back of us.
The idea of powerboat racing is the same as most other motorsports. The fastest man wins. However, it does have its own unique challenges.
Unlike motorsport, where you go around a tarmac track and it's the same lap after lap, our conditions literally change by the second. So you're constantly trimming the engine and out, constantly on and off the throttle. Keeps us out of mischief.
Basically, the rougher conditions, you normally trim it in so the boat actually rides flatter without, if you catch the wind or a wave, the boat goes up if you have it trimmed too much. So if you have it neutral trim, it keeps the nose going down. But on today, and when it's nice and flat, you want it trimmed as much as you can, so you get the boat hovering and most of the boat out of the water. You get the most speed, and then you come into a corner and you trim it in, and then as you come out the corner, you just trim it back out.
Well, conditions could hardly be better for the second and final day of competition here in beautiful Salcombe Harbour. Slack water for the start means absolutely flat calm. Trying to get away a little previously there, why not? But now they get to the flag, and closest to the camera, that is Bernico Racing with the Union flag colours draped across it. Bob McCarthy, the driver, Nigel Couch, his co-driver and navigator, and Couch responsible for throttling and trimming the engine, keeping the boat running as flat across the top of the water as possible. Battle for third, the green boat racing green, with the Rock just alongside. The Rock leading the competition after the first day, moving up strongly into third position. Looking back, chasing the leaders there. We're on board with Bernico Racing as they swing round the first mark. Turning in nice and tight, the Rock right behind. And on the left-hand side, the red boat, that's Why Not. That's a mistake. They've gone far too far past the marker and lost the lead. Bernico tight in at the first mark. They come round the second and third boys. They are in front. And even worse for Why Not, because it's so tight there, they're having to drive through the wake of the boat in front. And that churned up water gives much less bite to the prop, so they're slow off the corner as well. The Rock in third place. Racing Green had a good final sequence there, and as they come down the back straight, he's starting to close. Looking back from Bernico, clear water between them and their rivals. Battle for third continues. Mark Walker's Rock just in front of Racing Green, driven by Richard Mason with Tom Nancaro alongside him. The crew from St Austell turn very tight there. That's going to be a very close battle. Now let's have a look back down at the start, running down into that first corner sequence, and how Why Not managed to give away what was an excellent lead at the start. On board shows us what happens. They turn in and then, in danger of running over the mark, they have to let the boat run out wide. The second part of the corner coming up right on the inside. They're going in too fast, but too wide. And again, Bernico with a much better line, cut in front. So here we are, same sequence of corners once more, and this is the battle for third, and very tight action indeed between the Rock and Racing Green. Racing Green taking the inside line at the second mark. They're up into third. Can Mark Walker fight back? He's eating spray at the moment as he tries to pick up speed, heading back down the river. So Racing Green moving into third position, and the Rock down to fourth. Let's have a look again. Well, the Rock, Mark Walker tries to turn in very tight indeed, but some great positioning by Richard Mason and Racing Green. The Cornishman allows the boat to run out wide in the first element to give himself the inside line in the second, and they are literally just a foot or so apart of that second marker. Fantastic stuff down the field, but Bernico now, after the first couple of laps, with a decent advantage. Looking back over his shoulder, navigator Nigel Couch sees that they still have got a good lead over Why Not, and on board with the chasing boat, Why Not just 2 points behind Bernico after the first day's racing. So the crowd watching all along the harbour front here. Some very handily placed viewing positions in the pubs, and more trouble. Why Not have turned around the mark again. They've made another mistake at that bottom mark and had to go around it again. Well, the rules in powerboat racing are very simple. If you don't negotiate the mark on the correct side, you have to go back and do it again, and that has cost them even more. Now then, here's one of the non-championship boats in the race. This is Yellow Fever, local lad Ross Bournes. It's his first weekend of racing. Navigators Adam Biggs, and they're going really well, certainly not disgracing themselves, and looks like they're having as much fun today as they did on Saturday. Well, 3 non-championship boats in the field. Closest to the camera, that's Voodoo moving up into 6th, and they're just passing Bad Boys, Dave Matthews and Phil Farrer. That's another non-championship boat. And Voodoo, they had a 5th and a 4th yesterday, so trying to get themselves onto the podium in one of today's races. A13 driven by Graham Lawton, with Craig Lawton as the navigator. Come on, let's get on with it, they're saying aboard Bad Boys. They're not doing too badly either. On board again with Bob McCarthy. The Bernico racing team had a 2nd in yesterday's racing and a 4th in the first heat. So again, this is another step up the podium, looking for their first win of the weekend. And that might be enough to really put them into contention with the Rock, who lead on points after the first day's racing. Well, this is pretty punishing stuff, 25 minutes plus 1 final lap, and generally speaking, the water is not anything like as flat as this. These are open water boats. They're developed from normal ski boats and stripped out for racing, so pretty much a production-based class, which keeps the cost relatively handleable. But as you can see on flat water like this, as we heard earlier from the navigator James McGing, you can get the boat trimmed out, so essentially going as fast as possible. The idea is to have just the propeller in the water and the rest of the boat just hovering above it. And on to the last lap. They acknowledge the last lap flag from the Marshall's boat. Bernico, Sponge Bob McCarthy leading the field, as he has really from the first lap. The driver from Devon, co-driver Nigel Couch, and the rest of them will come across the line to take the last lap flag. And the leaders lapping Bad Boys as well. Dave Matthews and Phil Farrer running in 7th place as Bob McCarthy and Nigel Couch go through the bottom sequence of corners for the final time. And like all of these crews, I should think they'll be pretty relieved to get back on shore. No heavy swells to deal with here, but it's still, as you can see from the protective gear they're wearing, the helmets and the big bucket seats they're sitting in, and of course the life-preserving jackets as well. Those are absolutely fundamental. punch the air as they go past some of the spectator flotilla here in the harbour. This is still a pretty punishing sport. The onboard gives you a pretty decent idea, actually, just how bumpy it is, even on flat water. Looking back, you can see bad boys behind them. Quick check over the shoulder from Nigel Couch as they come back up into the harbour itself. And then rounding the top mark, heading towards the checkered flag. So a fourth and a second in day one, and now Sunday's first race yields win number one of the weekend for Bernico. Hands off the wheel for Bob McCarthy as he crosses the line to take victory in race number 3 of 4. Racing Green in second place. They won the opening race of the weekend and then slumped to 6th yesterday. So there is your top 2 close together. Bob McCarthy, closest to us, is our race winner. So confirmation of that. Why not? The early leaders down in 3rd. The Rock leading on points up to this stage, slumped to 4th. Anything could happen in the final race.
It was perfect for us. It was the perfect conditions. It was the ideal sort of race that I like to do. Jeremy in A19 did actually have the legs on us down the start run, and he actually got to the start turn before we did. Fortunately, he sort of overcooked the turn a little bit. I was able to back off, turn tighter, and spin up his inside, which got us into the clear water by the time we come out of the chicane. It does make a huge difference. If you can have the clear water in front without all the washes behind, then it gives you a very good advantage.
Stay with us after the break. We've got more action coming up. It's the final race of the OCR National Championships here at beautiful Salcombe in Devon. Welcome back to Sport Nation and Salcombe for the OCR National Championships. Events like this don't just happen overnight. A team of dedicated volunteers has worked hard to make sure everything happens on time.
There's a lot of involvement in getting the weekend going, a lot of organisation before, getting the race approvals, getting the approvals of the water authorities, the harbour master, the local authority, getting parking for the boats. An enormous amount of time is spent arranging it. It's not a professional sport, it's an amateur sport, so we're grateful for everyone that gives up their time for that. When we get to an event, myself and the officer of the day have then got to check that everything is right, how we want it, clear up any problems, any issues that come up at the last minute, and there are always issues that come up at the last minute, and deal with them so that we can get a race on.
Here we go then, ready for the 4th and deciding heat of the competition. Away they go once more. Bob McCarthy closest to us, very quickly away, but trouble for Fat Boy Slim. The dart boat right at the back of the field now. Even the non-championship runners have got by. But it's a very close start among our front 4. Bernico just with the edge from Racing Green, Why Not, and The Rock. And on points, Bernico and The Rock are absolutely level in the lead. Why Not and Racing Green also tied for 3rd place. So this is absolutely critical for all of them. Racing Green and Why Not literally inches apart. Why Not moving up into 2nd place. Looking over there is Navigator James McGing, and they're having a good run down the inside. Now, don't forget, this first mark was Why Not's on doing not once but twice in race 1. Bob McCarthy turns in. Oh, what's that? Something from Jaws. The creature from the deep has come out. Racing Green over the rear of the boat, hit the stern of Bernico, and Why Not have the lead? Now that's a real blow, literally as well as metaphorically, for Bob McCarthy. Can he recoup? Racing Green down to 4th. They tried for the lead there at the first mark and just overcooked it a little. So the Rock in 3rd, and Racing Green missed the 2nd mark. They're going to have to go round in the chicane. More traffic. They have to wait for Yellow Fever to go by. And now they rejoin. So that's really cost them. Racing Green, heroes to zeros in 2 boys. And here's the battle for the lead, coming out of the chicane and heading upriver for the first time. Why Not, with barely an overlap. Bernico right beside them, pushing hard. And look again, Bob McCarthy commenting on how important clean water is. Let's take a look back at this first mark. Looking back from Bernico, and wham! There is Racing Green, as Bob was watching Why Not, savaged from behind by the green boat. So Racing Green now turning inside Fatboy Slim, Ben Ward and Anthony Beadle trying to recover from that really shocking start. Just open the taps far too quickly and drop right to the back of the field. And unusual there, Bowton, that they're in tandem, one behind the other. Everybody else sitting side by side is the more normal way. Why not with the lead? Bernico in second and the Rock giving chase in third. As they speed out of the harbour once more, you can see so many great vantage points up on the hotel, on the terraces, up on the hillside, and even from balconies and windows to watch. Normally these boats race on open water. This is only their second year in the harbour. Racing Green now back ahead of Fatboy Slim. And let's take a look back at what happened down at that bottom mark. Racing Green turning very tight, go inside the mark. They had to pass it to port, but it passed to starboard of the boat. So again, going round for the penalty loop. And first lap red mist had certainly descended there. On board with Bernico, Bob McCarthy and navigator Nigel Couch. But there is our race leader, the boys on Why Not, Jeremy Gibson and James McGing. And James looking over his shoulder. 3 podiums for Why Not. But now they're looking to go from the bottom step of the podium straight to the top and challenge Bernico and the Rock for the overall win here. At the moment, though, it's going Bob McCarthy's way. Second place will do it. Nigel Couch looking long and hard over his shoulder, just trying to see how far the Rock is behind. Racing Green continues its recovery, pulling alongside Voodoo. Voodoo, one of the Suzuki engine boats. Racing Green, like more of the others, with a Yamaha outboard. So Craig and Graham Lawton on Voodoo, just losing a place there. That's a phantom hull, as is Racing Green's. But the difference between them being, of course, the crews, but also the engine. Richard Mason and Tom Nancaro from St Austell on Racing Green, tied for third place with Why Not, the race leaders, after 3 heats. Looks like they're going to lose out in that battle. Why Not challenging for the overall win, and that's a very tight turn, and again, too aggressive. Richard Mason losing a lot of momentum there. Tom Nancaro looking over his shoulder. Let's take a look again, coming up to the mark, really turning tightly, just digging in. With the tide changing now and starting to come into the harbour, it may be that it's becoming a little harder to read where the holes are. With Bob McCarthy and Nigel Couch on board Bernico Racing, still in second place. They haven't got an answer to the speed of Why Not. Bernico with a 4th, a 2nd and a win, but their real rival, the Rock, closing again from behind. These 25-minute races allow the teams to recover from mistakes, to really apply pressure to their rivals and try and force them. It's just a second or so between them. The leader, Why Not, is now too far ahead, I think, for Bernico to do anything about him. There they go through the shot. They're already in the middle of the chicane as Bernico get to the far marker. A good tight turn from the Rock. Mark Walker and David Eyre haven't given up any chance of taking second place. Pressure on Bob McCarthy and Nigel Couch to hang on now. And if they do, then they will have the top point score. The Rock really pushing hard. Mark Walker comes from Gibraltar for all of these races. The boat stays in the UK and he flies in. So half a Gibraltarian, half a Salcombe native perhaps. Nicknamed Gringo for fairly obvious reasons. Bob McCarthy still hanging on though. Here's Fatboy Slim after their dreadful start, trying to make up some ground. Battle for 6th place with Voodoo. And the boys on Fatboy Slim have had a 6th and 2 fifths already. Voodoo just in front of them. 5th, 4th and 6th has been their progress. So the two of them very close on points. Only 15 between them. Voodoo with the slight upper hand. And you can see on the back straight again, the dark boat, Fatboy Slim, looking for some clear water. That allows the propeller to run more efficiently. You get better bite from it, you get more speed from it. And it allows you to trim the boat a little more favourably as well. Here is Bernico at the moment with the points lead. Around the mark they come. Voodoo definitely feeling some pressure. Fatboy Slim starting to close. Ben Ward and Anthony Bedell chasing Graham and Craig Lawton. Crowds enjoying Beautiful sunny weather here in Salcombe. Some very close racing indeed. Coming down to chicane and Fatboy Slim piling on the pressure. Voodoo will be looking over their shoulders now with every passing second. They come off the gas down into the chicane. Fatboy Slim makes a nice tight turn. Oh, and they've gone over! Fatboy Slim have turned turtle. The crew out immediately. They're not strapped in. There's no safety cell like the high-powered Formula One boats. So they're straight in for a dunking, but both of them out very quickly. Safety boat on the scene. Yellow flags being waved down there at chicane. So let's take a look again. Fatboy Slim. And is this a problem with the wake? Yes, I think it is. They get thrown off balance as they start their turn, running across the wake of Voodoo, and that's all she wrote. So they're in for a dunking. Safety boats are very quickly on the scene. Meanwhile, there is Voodoo, Graham and Craig Lawton with no more pressure. And Steve Oaten, the safety officer, used to be on one of these boats. He used to have his own safety boat now. He's running things from the harbour side. And Roy Trott, the officer of the day, making sure that everything is running safely on the water. Roy Trott, been involved in the sport for 20 years. His proud claim is he's still got 50% of his own teeth. They're in a glass by the bedside. Not bad for a man in his 40s. Why not the leaders then on the last lap from Bernico and the Rock, and Racing Green after that dramatic start fought their way back up into 4th place. But really, since they got onto the backstretch here for the first time, Why Not have dominated this race. 3 solid 3rd places in the first 3 heats, and now they have really turned on the power. Coming towards the checkered flag, Jeremy Gibson and James McGing will win the final race of the weekend. Victory for Why Not. So confirmation of the result of the 4th and final heat then. Why Not the winners from Bernico and the Rock. Racing Green recovering to 4th ahead of Voodoo and Yellow Fever.
Yeah, it was difficult down that start because I had Rob coming down the outside of me and Racing Green was coming down the left-hand side. But as soon as we got round that first turnbuckle at the bottom and through the chicane, it was fairly straightforward after that. You know, once we had our good lead and, you know, got a good gap between the second boat behind.
He was giving me dirty water all the way round, and unfortunately I caught his wake up on the top corner. My bow went into his wash and it just bit in, and next thing you know, we're upside down swimming. It's all happening quite quickly, really.
Ben Ward there, proudly wearing his swimmer's medal after his dunking. So confirmation then of the points. Bernico win the weekend. The Rock and Why Not just 2 points apart in 2nd and 3rd positions.
Bob McCarthy and Nigel Couch. 1 first, 2 seconds and a 4th, and so well done, Bob.
So a very successful weekend indeed for SpongeBob McCarthy and Nigel Couch, the overall winners of the weekend. And that's it from Salcombe.